Have you ever done a presentation and you're like, oh, I'm a bit stressed, I'm a bit fearful about this, and you didn't do too well? I'm going to explain why that happens and how you can fix that. It mightn't be a presentation, it could be a video like this, and you just lose your train of thought, you have ums and ahs, your brain just goes, ah! It just doesn't work. This used to happen to me quite frequently. This research paper shows us one lever, just one lever that we can pull down on. So the likelihood of that happening is very low. So what this research paper did, it put people through a psychological stress test. They got 3 groups of people, put them on stage in front of an audience while they did mathematics. Kind of stressful. And group number 1 had a glucose meal. It simply means they had carbs, whatever that was. The second group had a protein and fat meal. The next group, the third and final group, they were just fasted. And the results are in. The fasted group and also basically the ketogenic group, fat and protein, they did fantastically. They did very well. However, the glucose group did not. Because the glucose group, their cortisol rose twofold, which basically switches off the way the brain works. And this is what happens in a nutshell. Right there. When stress hormones are higher than they need to be, it switches off the human brain where you do all these calculations, where you recall information. So the solution-oriented brain, the thinking brain, the calculating brain, the analytical brain is switched off. And guess what gets powered up? The old amygdala. We don't want to be there. We feel stressed out. So your brain is failing you. And the reason why glucose is not too friendly, look at this research paper here. Glucose, I'll just circle around it right there. Glucose-induced oxidative stress. So when glucose is a bit too high, and it doesn't need to be much, the liver tries to keep it, right? Listen to this carefully, at about 1 teaspoon in over 5 liters of blood. That's where there's no stress response. So when it goes up above that, we go into a stress response. But that's perfectly fine if you're not trying to use your money maker and think and crunch numbers. How do you know when you're doing that? Well, when you're trying to create solutions, when you're doing mathematics, when you're working shit out. On autopilot, you'll do just fine. You'll have your energy and you'll do just fine. But this research paper here is quite revealing. It shows that glucose raises stress hormones twofold, and you don't feel this. You don't feel this at all until you're put under pressure. Then your brain loses it. However, the advantage is whether you know about fasting or whether you know about being a ketogenic diet. That is the advantage. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to constitutively live doing a ketogenic diet. You can come up off it. You can use it and you can come off it whenever you choose to. But when you're under pressure, you want every single lever pulled down so you perform consistently, because that in and of itself gives you a feeling of confidence and optimism that you can do this. And guess what else cortisol takes out? DHEA. Now this research paper here says that when you have DHEA high optimal and have it locked in consistently, predicts superior military performance. Again, it's got to be up here consistently. So when you're performing, when you're kicking ass, you don't want cortisol up, because cortisol lowers DHEA. You might be thinking, well, how does it do that? Every single day, your body has 40 opportunities to produce either DHEA or cortisol, because the precursor to both DHEA and cortisol is a peptide hormone called ACTH. So if your body is in a stress response because of glucose or because of highly inflammatory food, guess what's not being produced? DHEA. Yeah, when I found out this, I was like, well, shit, I will be able to do those presentations. I will feel amazing when I'm doing them, kind of like what I feel now. So when you get your DHEA locked in consistently up there, because you know if you raise cortisol a bit too high and or you have inflammation, DHEA goes down, 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 and those 40 opportunities throughout the day that you could be producing DHEA instead of cortisol, you lose. Now, here's another amazing thing that your body does when you keep producing DHEA. Guess what DHEA has? A bank, a reservoir. So those 40 opportunities throughout the day, you're depositing performance back up into a bank. So you've got something you can tap into if you want to really kick ass throughout the day. So what we have to do and think about is, how do we want to show up every day? In positive physiology? Or do we want to just second guess it and just hope that we'll get there? If you've got a blueprint and you know how to do this, you can do it. And look at this. This research paper, the second one on this page here, predicts superior problem solving. Let me just make that a bit bigger because that's really good. Problem solving and academic performance. So if you want to kick ass in life, you've got to make sure that you've got your DHEA pumping, but the same is true with testosterone. So what we have to work out, just to wrap this up, is what will make cortisol go up, and also, and importantly, what will make inflammation go up. And when we know that, and there's only 3 things that do that, and if you want to know what those 3 things are, there's information below on that and how you can go check out that video. When you know what those 3 things are, you're going to be able to produce your high optimal levels of DHEA and testosterone and feel-good hormones and have thyroid support and energy for the day. If you found this interesting, give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel out. Comment below. That again helps me out. The more energy we put out, the more good energy we put out, the more happy and successful that we'll be, because that energy comes back. This is the Mark Iron Method, and I'm Mark Iron. Thanks for watching.